Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about the few supplements that I tend to actually endorse. And when I say this, I mean that a few of these are kind of situationally useful. But for the most part, there's only going to be two supplements that I think the overwhelming majority of you, would particularly benefit from. Maybe three, because I might include extra strength fish oil. But up front, really just protein powders and creatine. And when people say, well, what about this? What about that? Now, I'm telling you, most of the stuff is useless. It is not doing anything, even though you think it might. Now, will I say that maybe electrolytes and salts and stuff can help some people? Some, magnesium powders or potassium powders. Yeah, in some cases. I mean, I add extra potassium to stuff. I take potassium salts. I have potassium powder. I personally do use kind of those things as electrolytes. Do we count those as supplements? Maybe. I suppose we might. They're just basic minerals like that. But generally speaking, other than those, I don't even support people taking other minerals. Like I'm against zinc supplementation. I think it's actually dangerous with no real benefits, my opinion, based upon just the overall evidence. So really, the other ones that I might support beyond those two are going to be situationally useful, maybe extra strength fish oil. Okay. Maybe, like I said, maybe magnesium powder for some people. Vitamin D3. And if you take D3, you might need K2 with it. Vitamin D3, if you're deficient, if you're in an area to where maybe your skin pigmentation doesn't match your climate perfectly, it may be a case to where vitamin D may help. Maybe vitamin D3 in the winter times for some people if you're indoors particularly a lot, irrespective of what type of pigmentation you have, right? Could be beneficial. Okay, so we have these different ones. But again, these are all kind of situationally useful. Melatonin for people who need higher quality sleep, better sleep hygiene. I think melatonin could have its place. Okay. So these are all kind of useful, but let's kind of go down the road of why I support the few that I do. And I'm totally against things like test boosters, pre-workouts, all sorts of cellular volumizers, and all this nonsense, guys. It's all a waste of money. It's all a waste of money. And even people who say, well, what if it could have some drug-like effects? No, because it's unregulated. You have no way to control dose with herbs. Just take the drugs. Oh, people don't like to hear that. But the researchers will agree. Well, what if this red rice use might have statin-like effects? No, because you can't regulate the dose, even if you could get a hold of the real deal, because you have no control over the dosing for a drug-like effect. Getting it from a natural source is a really bad idea because you don't know how much you're getting. Okay, it's going to be inconsistent with a drug that is made with exact measurements to the milligram. You have control over the dosing, and your doctor has control of the dosing. So when we start talking powerful drug-like effects for statins or whatever, no, do not go with the natural route. I would argue that that's dumb. It's dumb. There's no reason to do that. And again, you don't have control. Same thing, if a test booster ever actually worked, that would be a problem because you don't have control of the amounts. Therefore, you don't know how much aromatase activity you're going to get, how inconsistent it's going to be, how much it's going to fluctuate. All right, don't do that. It's ridiculous. No, so anything that could, in theory, hypothetically produce a drug-like effect, you should actually avoid. They probably don't work, by the way, but if they did, the problem is inconsistent dosing in a more natural form. That's a bad idea. There's a reason some of those things do get banned for those reasons. Like the certain types of like red rice yeast that actually has a mild statin-like effect is banned for that reason because then it's you can't regulate the amount of statin-like effect. So therefore, you don't know how much to take, and every batch could be different. That's dangerous. That's actually potentially compromising health. So let's get over to the ones that I promote. Whey protein, or any protein, any high quality protein is fine. I lean in the direction of whey because of the high bioavailability and cost effectiveness. Why? Because protein is useful. Protein overfeeding is extremely valuable. There are metabolic and body composition benefits way beyond just the muscle growth aspect of protein. So protein overfeeding itself can be extremely valuable, particularly for fat loss or body recomposition purposes. Okay. appetite control. So I'm a big fan of protein powders, in addition to just overall high protein diet. So that's useful. Creatine, one of the few supplements that's been shown to do much of anything for muscle growth. Okay, it's a tiny, 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 tiny amount. The newest studies show that it's less than we thought it was, but at least it's something. I mean, it works consistently for decades in the studies. Probably the only over-the-counter supplement you're going to get that does affect muscle growth positively. There are possible cognitive benefits and other stuff to it. So that's one that makes sense where I can say, okay, yeah, creatine, fine. It's a good idea. It's a good idea. Multivitamins, man, we could debate that a lot. We also come over to people who are like, well, what about the insurance policy? Why don't you just eat a balanced diet? Like, why are you needing that insurance policy and then potential risk and cost and then complications of overdosing certain metals and stuff in them? Like, why are you going to risk that? Why are you afraid to eat broccoli? Like, why can't we eat plenty of whole foods and not need it? Okay, it seems kind of ridiculous. So no, I'm not necessarily going to always endorse that. Occasionally I might say, okay, look, if you really do. I keep some multivitamins on hand, a bottle, for days where I occasionally have a day where I didn't eat the vegetables or whatever. I'm like, oh, no, I'm going to come short. It maybe happens once a month or something, and I'll take a multivitamin or like half a dose of it, just for that purpose. But realistically, that's really tit for tat at that point. For most people, I think that's a waste. Just eat a balanced diet. So then we come over to the other stuff, melatonin for sleep quality for people who need it. Yeah. Maybe even if you have sleep quality problems, that might be where the magnesium comes in handy potentially. Could aid with that. Extra strength fish oil for people who maybe don't have certain cardiovascular risk, maybe inflammation problems in their body. But you need a lot of it. So the extra strength is the way to go because you're not going to take 10, 15 of the regular ones. So to get the actual benefits that a doctor would prescribe it for, say for elevated triglycerides, so maybe your lipids could use a little work and you choose fish oil, they're going to prescribe you a minimum of 2 grams of EPA and DHA. So even the extra strength fish oils, that's usually like 3 caps. So that almost makes the regular fish oil almost a waste. And then you need to freeze all of it, make sure it's from a good source. So again, fish oil potentially useful, D3 again potentially useful, depending on the climate, the amount of sunlight you get. So these are all ones that are then situationally useful. So they have their benefits, but outside of that, those ones listed, I don't really see a need for people to take supplements at all. I would argue most of them are not beneficial. Waste of money, potential risks in some case for no reward. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.